Hello and welcome to the third episode of the NYLIFF podcast. Today we have another very special guest, Jim Morrison, filmmaker, writer, even an actor now, a little bit.
I try to keep that a little quiet.
Well, you know what? This has turned into such a fun little thing because when we're still figuring out where I'm going with it. You know, Katie and I did the first episode to introduce what this is, and I had a friend of mine say to me, "What exactly are you doing?" Because he couldn't really tell. He's not in the industry, and I said, "I just want to create something that enables filmmakers, people who go to festivals, people who have been to NYLIFF, that are working on projects, to just have a place where we can talk about anything." I said, "Well, I think I'm going to create this podcast where we come on and just talk and shoot the breeze and bullshit a little bit like you and I have done so many times."
Yeah, I think this is kind of easy. We do this anyway, and it's fun. You know, now we're recording it and documenting it.
Exactly. So now you go to a lot of festivals. I know well, not a lot, but when you submit, you go, and you've traveled even to a lot of different places, right?
I've been to Orlando, Utah, Colorado. When I can do it, I go. You know, it depends on my work schedule. It adds up after a while. You know, we've gotten into a lot of festivals over the past few years, and I really do try to make every single one. It's just sometimes you can't. You know, and that's really hard. It's a little heartbreaking, especially we're going to email the festival and say, "Sorry, I can't make it out." You know, and
right.
I know attendance is very important for festivals, and if I can't go,
or you know, like one of the filmmakers told me that he got contacted by the festival. You know, how many people are you bringing? And it was out of state, and he said, "I'm not bringing anybody. Like, I'm just going to be me and maybe one other person." And they were like, "Oh," and they did that before they accepted his film, and then they rejected the film.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Right.
I think when this is over, can you tell me the name of that? Because I am not going to submit to something that does that. You know.
Right, which is, you know, and again, everybody, it's a business, but. That's kind of uncool.
No, it's not cool at all.
Yeah.
You know. Wow.
Yeah. So you've not experienced anything.
I mean, there are shady things, but I do a lot of research where I know where, you know, all right, you know, I'm not going to submit to that one, or I've never had anything like that.
Right.
You know, and it depends. There are festivals that I submitted to, I've gotten into. They're very small. You go there and it's, you know, 5 or 10 filmmakers watching their own films, but it depends. I mean, sometimes it's just a nice feel when you go to these festivals, you know. So it doesn't have to be this large festival to have a great time. I enjoy the small ones as much as I enjoy the large ones as well, you know. And like I said, I try to make every single one of them I can, you know, and sometimes you just can't make it.
And again, what's nice about going to a lot of small ones is you meet people.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be this big event where you know, you feel like somebody special. It's just going to constantly meet and interact with
you
people.
Can't go and expect to meet everybody. You know, if you walk away and you meet one person who like, "Oh, that dude was pretty cool," kind of like how I met you. I met you at a film festival mixer, and I was really having a bad time there. I was just like, "Oh my God," they're asking me for my ID every 10 minutes. It was just, and I almost like kind of walked out of there, and I ended up running into you, and here we are today. You know, many festivals later, films later. You know, so. You don't have to meet everybody. You know? You don't go around, "Hey, who are you? What have you done? Who have you want to done?" You know, and sometimes you'll walk away and you won't meet somebody. But if you meet that one person, you know, it's worth it.
And that's an interesting thing. Like you said, you know, you wasn't going anywhere. You almost felt like leaving.
Yeah.
And then we met, and that's like sort of a perfect microcosm or a description of a lot of our careers.
Yeah.
When you're thinking of giving up.
Well, we've come a long way. You know, I think it was like 2020 or something. I think I met you, and you know. I've met your circle, you've met my circle, you know, and you know people you know have been in my films, and I'm meeting other filmmakers, going to your festival, so it's really blew up.
I even got to be in one of your films.
You've gotten to be in two. You were an extra in one of them.
Oh, right, I was an extra.
I know you don't count that.
I don't count extra work, but no, that was fun too.
Yeah.
Because again, I always tell people this too. When you're an extra or something, you watch. Like it was really great. Watching you make that film, sitting in that room. So I'm helping you by being an extra, but also I get to watch you work. And I tell actors all the time, it's not so much like, "Oh, I'm an extra." Like, you know, if you're doing Law and Order or something, I don't put things like that on my resume.
Yeah.
But when you go to that production and you see how they do it, and
Sure.
I know there was a film filmed out by you, the one with Kate Walsh
Yes.
that Katie and I did,
Yeah.
and it was on Long Island. It was east,
Mm-hmm.
so I said, "No, I'm going to do this because I don't do much background work." But I wanted to go and see with the budget they had, what kind of equipment they were using, what kind of lighting did they have,
Sure.
and also I think the takeaway I come from a lot of these things is they do exactly what we do. They just have bigger equipment, brighter lights, and more money. At the end of the day, when you watch them work, and they have more people doing the jobs, but what they do throughout that shoot is very similar to what we're doing.
It is, and when you see something that they're doing, okay, that's okay to do that,
Right.
Like, okay, so they do that too. It's not. I'm not crazy, I can't think of anything specific, but
Right, I know. It's
but
hard
it's
to
like,
think.
okay, I do that,
You have the Clam Kid, Rent a Neighbor,
Yes.
Kyle versus Karen. Now, you have a new one that you're working on.
Yes, it's called I Appreciate Your Concern, and it's the one that you're in.
Right.
And we've had it pretty good with festival runs with all the films, and this one has been been in submission for about a year now. And as of now, we have one pre-selection to a really, really, really good film festival that I can't say right now.
Right.
And it's going to be in the fall, and so it's kind of hard. I'm sitting on this. We haven't gotten selections anywhere else, but it's like I really can't complain. We're going to be in something pretty amazing.
Now, what do you mean by
road.
a pre-selection?
We got a notice of a pre-selection to a festival, and it's tough. I mean, they could turn around and say, "Hey, we got a better film," but I'm kind of hoping they don't say that.
Right. Like, have you come across film festivals that have said, "No, we'll accept the film, but only if it's..." No.
This is the first time ever.
Because I read a lot about it. Like, I follow a lot of pages on Facebook, and there's film festival discussions, and they talk about people who have, pulled their film back out of the festival because another festival demanded it has to be that state premiere or that,
a lot of festivals do that, and I don't think that takes away from any other festivals. I mean, I've been to festivals where I always saw this film somewhere else, and sometimes it's even more enjoyable seeing it a second time.
Right.
But it is important to some festivals, like, they want to have nothing but premieres.
I've asked a couple of filmmakers off the show, but it's one of the things I want to ask people. How do you feel about the awards themselves? The physical award versus, what we do is we've been giving these, which is, our
Yes.
award, which people can frame, they can do whatever they want with it. How important is the physical award?
To me, to be honest, it's not important. I like to just be a part of it. That's important to me.
Right.
If you win an award at the end, I'm like, oh, that's kind of like the bonus, but I'm not looking to, it's not even on my mind to win something, to win the festival,
Right.
But then again, if somebody says, hey, you won this, and I've won Audience Choice Awards. I won the Audience Choice Award at the Monadnock Film Festival in New Hampshire, which was kind of cool because it's not on my home turf. It was in Keene, New Hampshire.
Right.
And it was like a $500 prize. I was like, wow. So that was nice. But again, I'm not seeking for it. I just want to be included. I like to be included in a festival, and that's the most important thing.
I saw one festival, and I was reading this, and it said, I mean, the number was huge. Like, send us $129, and you can have this huge plaque. And are people doing this?
I think some are. I mean, some people were not doing their research. People who are new to it and maybe just don't understand it, or maybe that's just all they want out of it. This, to say, hey, look, I have this film. It got this award.
Right.
And personally, I don't. To each his own, but I just don't feel it's about that. I would never do something like that. If I don't get into any festivals, I don't get any awards, then I don't. I'm not buying one.
Right.
And also one thing I look for too. There's a lot of festivals with, like, if I see a festival with like 40 submission categories that say best this, best this, best this, best this, I'm like, pass. It's just that's I don't want to be the best. As I was saying before, I want to be included. I don't need to be the best. I just want to be included and be a part of it.
I think, like, when you look back in Hollywood history, in 1920, it was okay to have a best picture.
Sure.
There was 8 films, I think as time has gone on and we still call something the best picture, I personally feel it doesn't really have much value, even in Hollywood. It doesn't seem to have the value it used to have. Like when The Godfather was the best picture, or when Gone with the Wind was the best picture. You could feel like it was legitimately the best picture. It's like Babe Ruth was the best player in baseball back in the day. Clearly, it was him and everybody else. But now you've got so many different genres, so many different categories, so many different budgets, so much. You'll see a picture that wins Best Picture in Hollywood, and sometimes I'm like, I saw something in a festival that was made for $10,000 that was so good. And we've all seen, we've seen things that have come to NYLIFF. I've gone to other festivals and you watch a film and go, wow, that's so good. And I'll go, in a way, is that film that was made for $10,000 better? Because it was made for $10,000, or a film that was made for $100,000, and then you got this other film made for, $40 million, and we're calling it Best Picture. It's sure, it has the best of everything, the best talent, the best cameras, the best director. But I always kind of say, if you can work magic with nothing, technically, if you are coming close in quality, that's kind of the best picture, to me. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but we see so much great stuff at this level.
Yeah. One thing I do enjoy the Best Picture nominees. Because then I start, all right, let me see what that's all about. See what that's all about. Not just at festivals, like the Oscars in general. And there is enjoyment. And sometimes, like, one picture will win. I can't say specifically what, but I'm like, it was good, but
right.
What were you thinking there? I feel like the other one I saw was much better, But I do get enjoyment out of it, seeing all the nominees. I do. That's
an interesting point, because I do read, like, when the article comes out with the nominees, I do read that usually from top to bottom, because it almost doesn't matter who wins at that point. We're going, okay, these are the best, and they're all good. And I guess maybe whatever the voting process is or whatever, we also have gotten to, like, not trust it or respect it. So it becomes such just an opinion that this one's the best. But you're right. Looking at the nominees is more, and they've added more nominees over the years.
I think that's great. I think that, especially since there's more films now, I think it definitely needed to expand, and that's one thing I do like a lot.
Right.
They're starting to recognize fantasy films, sci-fi films are starting to get, which they were just not even looked at one point.
Right. Do you ever notice, like, you can't please people? Like, back in the day when they wouldn't nominate something like sci-fi or a Barbie or something, we were like, it's not right. They should be nominating everything. And now that they do, people are going, come on.
Yeah, you can't have it either way. But I like what they're doing now. I like that they are including and not just turning their nose up at certain types of films. Baby steps.
Right. Right. I think playing the captain of a starship is just as difficult as playing the head of a mob family, but it doesn't get looked at that way. So, now I know you have a new film that we're not going to talk about.
No, we can talk about the film. We definitely could talk about.
Well, I know you have a new script as well.
Yeah. Right,
which we don't want to talk about that one.
Yeah.
But
we can talk loosely about it, but
that is going to be, about this topic that we've been talking about. I think that one's going to be.
Let's just say it's about film festivals, and
right.
I feel like it can make all parties angry, but then happy at the end in a way. It's about the whole thing is about appreciation.
Right.
In a sense, that's as much as I can go far with it right now. But
I think
if you have any other questions, that's fine.
I think people just need to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
It's like the world we live in right now, like canceling things because we can't laugh at things the way we used to. And yes, it'll probably piss off a handful of people.
Yeah.
But I think from what you've told me about it, most people will be in on it and they'll get a kick out of it.
I think so too. And it's, it's a film for filmmakers. It's that whole thing, know your audience.
Right.
Okay. My audience is usually filmmakers. I'm usually at a festival with tons of filmmakers. So this film is for filmmakers.
Right.
And for, people just coming to see film too as well. But my target audience is for filmmakers.
Yeah. No, I think it was a good idea. And that's the crux of so many of films that we see is what's the idea. Coming up with the idea sometimes is the hardest part.
Sure.
It frustrates me when I see all of the people and the work that they're doing, and that this is a business that only allows a very small percentage of people to reach a certain level. And it would be nice if everybody could get there, but it's just not mathematically possible.
No, and everybody's doing it now. You know, when I went to film school in the '90s, it was very hard to make a film. You couldn't really afford to, and now, you know, with all the technology, you can edit where we're sitting right now. You couldn't do that back then.
Right.
You know.
So when you went to film school, what were you working with as far as you were working with actual film?
We were actually doing Super 8 and 16 millimeter.
Wow.
Film. So I still have some footage somewhere. I gotta dig up and maybe transfer at some point.
How do you feel about the whole digital age now?
Well, that's the thing. You know, that's kind of what I was just saying. You know, very few were doing it back then. Your chances of getting into festivals were probably, you know, I'm not saying you will, but much better. And now that, you know, the technology is here, you know, everybody can do it, and everybody is doing it,
Right.
Including myself. And I'm able to, you know, shoot my films without, you know, spending a ton of money. You know, you still have to spend some money, but it's, you know, I'm a part of that too, you know, I guess.
What's interesting is also watching, like you're self-proclaimed not an actor,
Mm-hmm.
but watching how some directors and writers, I mean, wearing all these hats, do you find it difficult to direct actors?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, you know, because I'm also working the camera in some of the films too, and you know, there's things that I'm missing. You know, there's one of the films I did, Rent a Neighbor. There was when I was editing, I'm like, oh my God, the reflector's on the ground. How did I not see that? Because I'm concentrating, you know, getting the shot, and I couldn't really even concentrate on the actors so much. So I'm trying to get to a point where I separate everything. You know, like in the last film, I acted in the last film. I'm not sure I want to do that in the next film.
Right.
I don't want to operate camera in the next film. You know, I just want to kind of focus on the actors. You know, I feel like that's where I really want to put my strengths the next time I make something.
Was it stressful for you acting, or did you just not love it?
I mean, I used to want to be an actor. You know, in the '90s, I was actually in a public service announcement. I was like a street hoodlum in
Really?
Don't Talk to Strangers, and they shot it in the city.
Do we have footage of that available?
I saw it. You know, it was shot in New York, and I saw it. Like, I lived in Los Angeles for a little while, and I knew it was the commercial. We were watching some late night television. I'm like, this is it. And I saw it once. A couple of my friends have seen it, and this is when I had like hair down to here, and it was just me and some other like, you know, metalhead guy, and we were just supposed to follow the camera, and it was a kid skipping by, and we were the thugs, you know. I've looked up PSAs on YouTube, and I can't find it anywhere, so maybe one day I'll get a hold of it. Okay. So anyways, I used to want to be an actor, but I've kind of gotten out of that. The reason why I did it in the last film, the film that I just made, a lot of directors I like have tried their hand at acting. You know, like I'm going to drop names, but it's like Quentin Tarantino, of course. He's acted in his films. I'm not Quentin Tarantino. I'm not even close. Kevin Smith, he's acted in his own films a lot. Ed Burns, which I like a lot, has acted in his own films. So I just kind of wanted to follow that as well, you know.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the reason I'm acting in my own films, people think, you know, it's ego. We want.
Yeah, no.
It's more so just that it's one less person you have to bring on board. You have to hire. You have to worry about.
Yeah, sure.
So it's more semantics and trying to like.
I mean, it does. Yeah. It does feel like ego when you're doing, okay, everybody sit and here you are acting. Right. It does feel like I'm the ego guy, you know, and I'm definitely not, you know, but these are things that I have to do, and I kind of go like that. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this. I don't care what anybody thinks. It's the same thing with posting on Facebook.
Right.
Hey, we got into this festival. Look, you know, it's not a brag. There's a festival I got to support. There's actors who may want something for their reel. There's people who, hey, I lit that film or I did something for it. It's a celebration of everybody, but. Like I say, I know there's a lot. The people on Facebook are great. A lot of people are chiming in saying congratulations, but I'm sure there's some people like, oh God, here he goes again, you know.
Right.
But it's I don't care. It's something I have to do. It's not about me. It's about a group of people and a project.
Because if you're in business to sell this glass and you advertise this glass, nobody calls it ego. Mm-hmm. But in essence, you're your product.
Yes.
You are the glass. Yes. So when you promote it, it looks like ego. But it's not.
No, it's not. Sure.
And I know of all people you're not because of your credits that you put into the movie. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your credits?
I tried. Oh God, you're gonna sell me out here. Okay. Well, I mean, I just try to limit the amount of time my name is in there. I'm not a big fan. Written directed is very important to me.
Right.
And that's the only credit I want. So, but I do editing, I do camera work, and I do have an editor, which is me, named Dovey Birdman, whom you nominated for Best Editor one year because you knew this. Thankfully, I didn't. Thankfully, Dovey Birdman didn't win, so my dirty secret's out. I just honestly, I just don't like slapping my name all over. I've done it. I've had a documentary edited. It was like written by, directed by, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, that's just too much.
Right.
Look, the Coen brothers do it, okay? They have pseudo names for their editors, so their name's not all over the place. So if it works for them, it can work for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No. During COVID, I think you might have seen it. I made a film while I was home. Nobody could leave their houses, and I made a film where I played 7 people in my house, living in different parts of the house during COVID, and we couldn't get out, as a joke. And then it says in the credits, Gerry Ferretti, Gerry Ferretti, Gerry Ferretti.
See, that's a good joke, though. That's a good joke,
right.
And I think people get that,
Right.
So I was so anxious to post my new movie poster. Like, here's the new movie coming out. And I had so many spelling mistakes on the names. I left people out. And I probably went back and did 5 revisions of just posting a poster to Facebook, making sure I get the name spelled correct. And it was just one after the other. So just take it easy,
And there's people that when you post something like that, they're like, let me find a mistake.
No, I like 3 people chimed in on the names. And, Lisa Dabrowski, who's in a lot of the films, she's like, you forgot this guy. I'm like, oh my God. And I went back and, it's not that I forgot somebody. It's just, I just didn't go through all the names, and it's a lot of names. So.
It's a lot of things to do, and you have a regular job too, like so many of us. And, it's another thing with making films at this level is you put a film in a film festival. And I always feel that there's a tendency, and I'm kind of guilty of this too sometimes when I go. I think we look through things with a little more of a critical lens than if we go to a mainstream movie.
Sure.
And I don't think that's really fair, but we're all guilty of it. Like, you're like, this is somebody making a film like you. So I always say, let's go watch the movie. But it's hard because you're like, let me see where they screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, but I definitely don't get on look what they did there, because somebody could do that to my film.
Right.
Because I watch some films like, oh my God, how do I get to this level, of what these guys are doing,
And then sometimes you watch films that are at that level and there's a lot of screw-ups.
Yeah. Sometimes story's lacking. I'm like, this looks amazing, but where's the story?
I find editing in a lot of movies that are mainstream, that are really timeless classics. There's a lot of editing where I'll see like the camera will be, let's say, on me, and I look at you and say something, and I'm like leaning like this, and then the camera moves to here, and I'm like this, and then it'll cut back to that angle, and I'm back like this, and I go, how did they miss that? Or the glass is in the hand, it cuts to the other angle, and the glass is here.
It's because you're looking for it now. You didn't look for it before.
Our eyes are trained.
Yes, and the same thing with like lighting. You'll see somebody's in the shade, and then there's a wide, and they got sun on them, and you don't really pay attention to that unless you're making films like yourself.
Right. I have friends of mine now that because they've watched and been on set and helped out, they've said to me, you've ruined movies for me, by the way, because now I watch things and I see all these things that I would not have seen.
Sure. It's almost like you got to be perfect to avoid dealing with those type of people when you make your own film.
Right.
I'm crazy about the whole 180 rule. And, I broke it. On the Clam Kid, I broke it. I'm like, I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my God, I broke 180. I'm like nuts about it. It's like, how did I do that?
Yep.
So I'm definitely, that's like a number 1 rule I don't want to break.
Yeah, and it's sometimes you just have to. And I know in the Fontanas I did it once. There's a scene where I'm talking and the way the wall was and the way I did it. Nobody's commented on it, but when I watch that particular scene,
it'll drive you nuts. Yeah. You're your own worst critic when you watch your stuff.
Can you, for our viewers, just give a quick rundown of the 180 rule?
180 rule? I'll describe it. So you and I are talking right now. Pick a side and stay on that side. So if there's a conversation between you and I, and we pick this side, camera goes over this shoulder, goes over that shoulder.
Right.
If we break the rule, the camera over this shoulder and it goes over that shoulder, it's going to look weird in editing. It's going to do that. Now, there are rules of breaking, and I did break it in, I appreciate your concern, but it was an intentional break because we're in a group meeting. And we, Aaron got this great angle. I was like, oh my God, we kind of broke 180, but it kind of started off with a conversation. and then the conversation turns to somebody else, and then I was able to flip it like then. So
Right.
it's like a kind of a handoff where you can kind of get away with it.
Right. Any other things in filmmaking that you're very critical about, or that you have on your set that you insist on?
Yeah, and I really mean this. Fun. I want there to be fun. I don't like that whole uptight, it's my way or the highway, people yelling. I've been on sets like that.
Right.
I've worked places where somebody's just, all right, I'm going to be the asshole. You know, I've seen that before, and I just want everybody to have fun. Yes, it's work hard, play hard mentality. This is going to sound crazy, but food is very important too. I'm like fanatical about it. Like coffee, number one, good coffee. I get it from my local establishment in Greenport called Aldo's, and I make sure it's fresh.
Right.
No pizza. I make sure like I make. You've eaten food that I've gotten before. Maybe not the clam cake, because I think I did a Costco for that, because I was like the.
I don't remember.
Yeah. But for I appreciate your concern. We had, lasagna, we had Swedish meatballs, all stuff that I made. I'm a little fanatical about that too. I just want everybody to have a good time and laugh. I don't know. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, no, kidding me? It was great.
Yeah, I wanted it to be like a little party afterwards. I just almost didn't want anybody to go home. Just wanted to hang out and eat lasagna and have fun.
Right.
Just like a fun camaraderie.
I mean, let's face it. A lot of people are working for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They're working to build their careers, and
Yes.
you feed people, and they're happy. I always try and have food on set, but I find one of the things that at this level, it's getting a full day's worth of work, and I always feel guilty taking people, like when people are waiting, like,
Oh yeah.
and you have
Yeah.
2 hours to do here, but you needed them here, and so they're waiting. I always like to have some kind of food there, because I know they're putting in so much time,
Mm-hmm.
and I try and not. I'm guilty of this. I'll work straight through.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work like an idiot and forget to eat when I'm.
Oh, I get dehydrated. I do. I go home and I actually feel drained. Like, 'cause I'm
Right.
it's just like your body's in work mode.
So who's ever helping me on set, I'll tell them, listen, remind me to stop and eat and feed people,
No, that's
because
good
I'll
advice.
just keep going. But then I like to take everybody out afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So where it'll be like sandwiches or something during the shoot, I'll be like, okay, afterwards, if there's time, let's all go to the diner.
Yeah.
Because then you can sit and talk. As long as everybody has the time to do it.
Yeah.
You sit, you talk, you get ideas, you talk about the day. And I almost feel like it would be like that if there was a big budget.
Yeah.
You sit and eat together. But on this level, sometimes that's hard, because when people are done, they're like, I got to go home, I got this to do and that to do. So it's hit or miss. But I love those moments when we finish the shoot and then we all go sit in the diner, and it's like...
You know what? That just reminded me, because I was sitting here bashing on the clam cod food. I was like, we went to Hellenic after that, the
Yes.
restaurant. I was like, so
Right.
we ate great food that day.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was great.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes it can go long. So yeah, you gotta feed people. I think my one rule that I'm now like a real pain in the ass with is know your lines.
Okay.
That's the one thing that if I have to say I'm a pain in the ass about now, to me it makes all the difference in how the shoot goes, because it's the one thing we can't really prepare for. So we've got our cameras, we got our lights, we got everything together, we got the actors, they're coming in, but if they don't know their lines, that can drag down.
Sure.
So it's the only thing that I've like become, and I hate it. I hate that now I'm like.
I feel like maybe you've experienced it where somebody showed up and was kind of like dragging it down. I feel like you wouldn't be that way out the gate unless it's happened before.
And it has.
Yeah, because
you
you got a good circle of people you work with, and I've worked with some of the people you work with, like
and even the people who have forgotten their lines are good people.
Yeah.
But I see how it can drag down, like what was going to be 2 hours now took 5. And that you can't plan for. And it's hard to adjust and fix.
I got to admit, I did that myself. I kind of forgot my own lines. Well, there's some scenes like Lisa and I were shooting for like the last film we just did, and I didn't really rehearse correctly. I was like, I wrote this, I can remember it, and then I'm like, oh, I can't even remember what I freaking wrote. So. We eventually pulled it off. I had to go back and restudy, but I found a way on how to do it. I recited it because I was trying to act off of paper. I was acting while I was reading. I was like, no, you got to memorize this before you act.
Yep.
So it was something I learned along the way. And then when we shot with Katie, I can't mess this up. I can't, I apologized to Lisa. She's like, I don't care. I was like, but I'm not doing this to Katie,
Because I think as an actor, I could say that when I write something, there's almost like a notion in your head, like, I'll remember it.
That's what I was like. I wasn't arrogant, but I was just like, I wrote this. I'll remember it. I could wing this, and it's, it's not how it worked,
No.
And like, I had to really go back and read, and Lisa's telling me my lines. I was like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that to somebody again.
I think the reason for that is because when you write it, they're words.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody said to you, what are the words? You could probably recite them.
Mm-hmm.
But once that camera goes on and now you
Yeah.
have real emotion coming
Mm-hmm.
out, whether it's the adrenaline or something, what the hell were those words?
That's exactly what I
know
did.
them. That's exactly what happened.
But when we shot with Katie, I learned from that before. So like when we shot, I remembered all my stuff. I did burn out after a while, but I did remember all my lines, and I did the acting,
Mm-hmm.
and that shoot went pretty quick. I
Yeah.
feel like.
I think we've seen so many good actors come through the NYLIFF
Oh yeah.
the NYLIFF circle
Sure.
over the years, and I see so many of them being called on by other filmmakers to work.
Well, that's how it should be.
Yeah, which is really cool. So,
because it's funny, because like I met George Buzio at your festival,
right,
and ended up hitting it off with him, and I found out he was going to be in Orlando, so I was like, hey, you going to be in Orlando? And we were like right around the same day, and so we actually met in Orlando, went and had lunch and hung out and watched a bunch of other films, and this is based on being at your festival.
Right.
It's
frustrating sometimes when I see you guys at some of these festivals. I'm like, damn it, I wish I could go.
You're always welcome, but it's it's not easy to get pulled away.
We both have this little annoyance called a job.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't keep taking off, because, and again, I'm sure you do the same thing. You have time in the future.
Sure.
You got to be filming.
Yeah.
And you have to pick and choose. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but you got to pick and choose the days that you're going to bang in and
No, I have a really odd schedule, so I just manage my time off well.
Right.
If a lot of the time I'm off on a day, I can, I work every other weekend, so I'm like, oh, that's the weekend I'm off. I can go to that festival, and sometimes when you're working, the festival, I got to say I can't.
Have you written things that you've wanted to film but you couldn't do it because what you're writing is location unfriendly? You can't afford it. You can't, or do you always write?
I write for location, because it goes back to write what you know.
Right.
And I live in a pretty cool town. I live in Greenport, New York. At the end, I grew up out there. I have a different view of how life is growing up out there. So what I write is things from my experiences and basically everything I know. And I'm always visualizing a place, and sometimes even a person, I'll have in mind, even if it's not something I'm going to use in the film.
Right.
So it's very important for me to have some sort of a background. I would like to write something, like you can blow up the world on paper, but I haven't gotten to that yet. And I find I write best when it comes from places that I know. And I like to pretend like, oh, I just wrote this. Came out of nowhere. And then I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, you know what? I know where that came from. Stop bullshitting yourself,
But that's good writing, that you're able to dig deep.
Sure.
And pull something out that you don't really recognize.
Yeah, and sometimes, as I get older, I'm touching on stuff that I didn't want to talk about,
Right.
And sometimes I feel like when you reach a place of honesty, sometimes the best stuff comes out of you. Stuff that you're ready to, all right, well, I'm going to share this one. Especially the last one is heavy subject.
Yeah. No, and that
I have a lot of explaining to do.
And again, like, with location, it's frustrating sometimes when you want to, like, with the Fontanas, I want to go to Brooklyn. I want to go to Italy. And as I'm writing, I'm going, I got to stay on Long Island now.
I mean, still write it, though. Don't let anything hinder you. Don't let location hinder your writing at all, which I'm sure you don't.
I don't.
You
So you find your mind going in two different, like the safe direction and the tough direction. But the tough direction usually wins. And then I just go, all right, we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's fun, and like you said, you want to have fun. So
yeah, it's most important.
Yep.
I mean, not to the point of like goofing off and like, hey, we're having fun. Like I said, work hard, play hard. And I think that's worked.
Right.
I've always worked with a fun group of people. People that I want to. I feel sad because there are people who have like a minor role. There were people at our shoot that day who are great actors that didn't even speak, you know, and I want to have a part for everybody, you know, I want everybody to have something, you know, but
Right.
it's just, you know, you can't do that. You can't write for everybody, you
Right.
know? And sometimes you'll have this great actor that, okay, you are so awesome, but this is not for you, you know, this is for somebody else, you know.
Actors,
Mm-hmm.
they want to play every role,
Mm-hmm.
and they think they can, and maybe they can. But if there's somebody better or somebody that's perfect for the role,
Yeah.
we're not in a position to say, like, let's say I want to play somebody who's, 75 years old.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, but if you green me
Mm-hmm.
up and I can do this, and you might be going, you could probably pull it off.
Yeah.
But I got this 75-year-old guy that's a good
Yeah.
actor. I have to understand that.
Sure. I mean, I
You
don't
know.
look at it as somebody who's better. You know, it's just something you get a different feel from certain people. So it has nothing to do with being any, you know, better than anybody.
Better for your situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just
You know.
fits your objective better. Yeah.
I think this next one that I wrote, I can put everybody back in it, which is great. I think I could bring back something for everybody. It's, you know,
I'm excited about it.
you know, I think we're even going to bring back a character that you played before. So it would be so
Yep.
much fun to do this. So. So this, I get my dream. I get to put everybody I want back in it, as long as they're ready to deal with me. And when it's going to happen, I don't know. But definitely, you know, I'm thinking maybe in a year from now.
Well, you get things done.
I do. I usually do what I say I'm going to do. That's one thing, you know, I grew up in a household where it was a lot of half things done. So that's
Right.
kind of my drive is like, nope, I'm going to do this. And some of my friends used to make fun of me. It's like, dude, that dude does everything he says he's going to do. And I'm like, yeah, I do.
I'll briefly go down this path
Sure.
before we wrap up. But you tried your hand at a festival.
Oh, yeah. I had it was I called it the Greenport, oh my God, I forgot the name of my, Greenport Film and Music Festival. And what it was in the park in Greenport. And it featured filmmakers from our high school. And our high school is very small. Like I graduated I think 35 students. And all my kids have gone K to 12 in this one school in Greenport. So we've had a few people come out of there. You know, Rosario Rodriguez had her documentary. Brand Dougherty Johnson did a really short animation. Terry Keefe produced a Dan Mervish film, 18 and a half, that was actually shot in Greenport. He showed like a segment from there.
I just remember it was in June, and it was like freezing.
Yeah.
It was like you pulled it off even under adverse conditions. I remember, I think I was in shorts. I
was
drove out there and
freezing. And I was holding the screen down because it was like a blow-up screen, and my sister's back there helping me like hold the screen down, and I'm seeing the but there was people there. It was
Yeah.
fun, you know, we did it. So
You did it, right?
the idea is not dead. I like the idea of it. It's just I was almost even thinking like next year or sometime soon do like a North Fork edition, because I got approached by a lot of people about it saying, hey, I have a film, I did a film too, and it's just
Right.
like, you know, it's my whole thing, I want to include everybody type thing.
Right.
So I feel like instead of, you know, I don't think we're running out of Greenport filmmakers, so there's a North Fork edition maybe could be in the works, but as of now it's
right.
you know, it's shelved right now.
Well, we'll end this episode talking about basically how you did the festival, and what you said before is that you did it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, wrapping up so many filmmakers, actors, it doesn't really matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter. As long as you're enjoying it, you're having fun, and when it's done, you say you did it. And then you move on to the next thing. And each one of those things, as you accomplish them, they're an accomplishment. And I think it all is leading somewhere. But like you said, doing things to completion, finishing them, and you did it. Whether it's freezing out, whether the screen is blowing away, at the end of the day, people came, they saw the films, you gave them an opportunity to show what they created, and that's a good thing. And you're keeping actors working, you're keeping lighting people working, sound people. I know we worked with the casual crew. It's all just a forward-moving thing, and I think it's great to be part of this on Long Island and to be meeting all these great people like yourself.
It's a fun trip, because like when I first started off doing the Clam Kid, I didn't know anybody. You're kind of like one of the first guys I reached out to, like, all right, there's an actor, you know. It was a slow build up, and you built this, you know, I built this community of people, you know, and formed relationships with so many cool people, and It's fun. It's a fun,
Yep.
fun thing, and going to the festivals, meeting more people, seeing amazing films. It really is. It's a blast.
We look forward to your next projects and doing more together and meeting all new people. And thank you again for coming on and being part of this podcast.
Oh, anytime. Hope we can do this again.
Definitely. All right, thank you for tuning in. And anybody who would like to join in, be a guest on the NYLIFF podcast, reach out. We're going to be having more filmmakers. We're going to try and do this every week, time permitting, and then we'll have you on. We'll see you at the next NYLIFF podcast. Thanks again.